Hello, my name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Post-Burnout.com. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. This is our website's podcast where we publish full-length recordings of our interviews, which are sometimes the unedited versions of our site's articles and at other times are exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy and consider subscribing, giving the episodes a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, or giving it a rating if you're anywhere else. It really helps us out. Thank you. Alright, in this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews the Louth-based musician David O'Farrell McGeary of the gothic, gazey and ethereal alt project Haunted Images returns to the podcast to discuss the project's debut self-titled album, how film editing helped the flow of the record, the songwriting process, how the project has expanded, revisiting songs from David ofmg with Haunted Images, the reason for self-titling the album, the Dundalk music scene, and much more. Haunted Images will perform a launch gig for the album at the Watchtower in McHugh's Drogheda. That's tonight at 8 p.m. and there are tickets available in the description of this episode. Thank you and enjoy.
Hey,
Hey David, how you been?
good man. It's good to see you again. How are you?
It's good. I'm well, man. A little under the weather, but we persist. Actually, I was listening to our previous interview, which I guess we would have done back in September when Grey Days was coming out,
Mm.
and I think I can't remember being sick for that, but I sound a little nasally, so maybe it's just a bad omen. Every time we talk, I'm gonna be inflicted with something, but
You
it's
can
worth
blame me.
it.
Fine.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Dude, we were talking about there, like, we talked in September when the first single for this album came out, or maybe it's the second. I think Grey Days is actually the second single. I think I erroneously called it the first at the time, but now look at us, the full album is out. All
Mm.
these months later, and today, as we're doing this interview, the album just came out. So I guess it's a little too early to talk about the reception to it. But from my perspective, as I was listening to it, I really think it's a very beautiful record. And one thing I wanted to start with was the flow of the record, actually, because I think
Mm.
everything flows so neatly. And I was wondering, does your background as a film editor and as a video editor kind of influence the way you edit full length releases like this?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Especially with this album, I approached it like the hero's journey,
Yeah.
So like just the way all the songs peak and all their energy and yeah, so like the way it would all kind of flow together feels like you're in a movie or listening to a story or something. But yeah, it was like my intention from the start to have all these interludes and all these ambient leanings so everything really flows together. I have a vivid memory of when I listened to Dark Side of the Moon for the first time. I think I was coming home from the airport and it was dark and it was rainy and we just put the CD in the car. And the fact that I found it so cool that you just put the CD in the car and it played the whole album and you didn't even notice that the tracks were changing. And I was like, that was just the first thing that was like, I want my album to feel like that too.
Yeah.
It's like one big piece with all these little pieces connecting together.
Actually, did you finish the album in time? Because it's like a 70-minute record. So did you finish it by the time you go home?
Yeah, I was living in Arklow at the time, so it was a
Okay.
long enough drive. Yeah.
No, it's an interesting thing because like Dark Side of the Moon, I remember I had a bit of an affinity for that record when I was like 15 or something, and yeah, I remember the first time like that transition to time happens at the song time and just being like, holy shit, you know?
Yeah, and On the Run as well, where it goes into
Yes,
this
yes.
crazy synthing. It's like those two songs should not work together, but it works so well on that album.
I
You know?
have to ask, did you ever do the Wizard of Oz thing?
No, I haven't yet. Well, I really want to do the Paul Blart Mall Cop one.
Oh yes, yes, I remember hearing about that. Yeah, apparently that syncs up to the album. I've never tried
Yeah.
that one. I think I was too lazy to actually do the timing myself. So what I did was I think someone just uploaded it to YouTube at the time. My
Yeah.
copyright was a little more lenient, I guess, and someone just made an edit of putting Dark Side of the Moon to Wizard of Oz and just uploaded it. So I think that's how I experienced that, and I was like, I don't really see
No.
it. Maybe if I
No,
was on edibles or something, maybe then it would be
maybe.
like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I get it now. It's like watching a Lynch film or something. It's like, oh, I get it now, just in different states of mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
But I when I was listening to the record, I intentionally avoided the press release that I was given for the record because I just wanted to have my own interpretation. And
Mm.
then I've made notes as I was listening to it, and then I read it, and the press release that Michael sent out was very, very detailed. Like every song is covered, the whole album is covered, and I was like, shit, that was pretty much my interpretation. So if it's any consolation, the intent of the album I think does shine through. Um, there's like a lot of feelings of like, you know, nostalgia, themes of forgiveness, themes of reflection. What I was thinking actually with the opening track, and again this could just be my interpretation, but I'd love to get your reading on it, is that it's about forgiveness, but I kind of read it as um someone offering forgiveness while kind of harboring some sense of guilt over the thing that it's like I forgive you, but I think there's also kind of a reflection of not really being being the person in the position to offer forgiveness. Is that a fair interpretation, or is that just my reading?
Oh no, definitely. Yeah, there's definitely something like that there where it's like a big but in there, you know. I forgive
Yeah.
you, but um yeah, because a lot of the album, yeah, like you're spot on with the points there, and it's not just about like individual like people themselves, it's about myself too, you know,
Mhm.
like reflection and forgiveness of myself. So that's mainly what that opening song is like. It's like I forgive you, but you were an idiot, so I need to know now. Which I think everyone needs, you know, you need a harsh critic within yourself, but also to have that forgiveness so you can grow and move on to, you know.
Mhm.
That song especially is about, you know, like like even like childhood stuff, you know. That's why I feel like that's a great like um introductory tract, you know, not even like musically the way it kind of starts very solo and it's like just guitar and me, but like lyrically it's like this is what you're going to expect from the rest of the album. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, and what was it kind of, was there just like a time in your life, I guess, with maturity and with growth that we all kind of go through where you were feeling reflective? I mean, did that influence the record? Did you start out with kind of themes in mind, or is that just kind of like what naturally developed as you were kind of writing songs? Because in our previous interview, you were mentioning Bon Iver and the way, you know, he crafts songs and just kind of like lets the subconscious kind of come out and then edits later. Is that kind of how this record came about, or was it set out with a kind of theme or concept from the inception?
It was definitely yeah, kind of stream of consciousness for sure because a lot of the songs are quite old. Like the last track, Heaven Level 7, is like 7 or 8 years old, like really
Yeah,
old
I
song.
wanted to highlight that one, but yeah, finish what you're saying.
But yeah, it was definitely in hindsight because I had about 45 songs, I think, or 50 songs that I had written for an album, and it was those few where I was like, these seem to be the most cohesive in terms of theme and sound. You know, they were like, I feel like this is part of the larger story here. You know, and then it was I didn't have to do too many edits afterwards. I think it was probably maybe Heaven Level 7 and maybe like one more song where I was like, okay, I'll change this around so it fits a little bit better, but there weren't major changes to it. So it was very much just like cherry picking the best out of a large pile of really bad songs.
Well, you know, it's like you know, going through the dailies, you know, just like
Hmm.
you have to do the editing, you know.
Yeah, I get the best takes. Yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about Heaven Level 7, as you mentioned there. It's the closing track on the record, and to me, like it's actually interesting to kind of get that perspective that it is like, you know, it's such an older song, because I really did feel it was kind of like a good kind of compilation of kind of your older sound and your newer sound going forward.
Mm.
Again, was that kind of intentional? Was it kind of like I want to have that kind of I don't know, that bridge for the chasm or something, or was it just kind of like I don't know, that's just what the song was, and
Yeah, it was just what the song was. When I wrote it, I well, I wrote it when bought I bought a Stratocaster like 7 or 8 years ago, and that's when I started writing like a load of songs like you get inspired when you get new equipment as well.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was writing a bunch of songs with Strat, and it was mainly just pop stuff. I was like writing kind of like indie pop stuff, but that was one of the songs. I think it was like the second song I wrote with it, and I just remember straight away when I wrote it, I was like, "Oh, that's a song for the end of an album."
Mm.
Like just the general like there was no lyrics or anything to it. The recording was really shit too. It was just like a bare demo, and but I knew straight away. I was like, "Oh, that's for like an end of an album sometime."
Mm.
And when I was compiling everything like last year to get ready for proper production, I revisited that song and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is perfect. It has like that the first half with the electronic drums and the synthy stuff matches the For What It's Worth EP, and then that big heavy end. It's like it really is like a marriage of the both styles together, and that like I think it was not like a happy accident, but like and not fate either. It's not, that's kind of weird, but like the fact that it did close out the album, I think, is the perfect way to close out an album that's like that. You know, like at first, I remember like at one point when I was compiling everything together, and I had Grey Days and A Grey Sky, like those two tracks, and I was like, that would be a really nice way to end the album, just like a little fade out with some orchestra and stuff. And then I was like, well, I want to have like an epilogue. I
Yeah.
want to have like the finishing statement, like Grey Days would be like the climax of a movie, like the big
Yeah.
show off or whatever, big showdown, and then Heaven 11 7 is like, okay, here's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's
No,
yeah,
epilogue's a great term for it because that is how it feels. Like it's actually quite it's interesting. It's actually quite stark. I think at least in my listening of the record, like it is kind of like it almost feels like I don't know. If you're listening to it on like Spotify, it almost feels like, oh, there's something to start auto playing afterwards or something.
yeah, for sure. I noticed that too. Actually, listening back, it's like you think everything's done, and then you're like, oh, here's something else. Oh, this is
Yeah.
quite different. And then the end's like, oh wait, no, it's the same album. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because it kind of weaves in, becomes cohesive with the overall album. Like at a certain point, you're like, oh, okay. And it's like, I don't know, it really is just kind of like a perfect blend. I think of the new direction and the old. I mean, from your perspective, I mean, is there a kind of nostalgia for that sound? We're speaking about it. It's like it's actually relatively recent. I mean, that the Haunted Images, the new direction for the project is kind of come about. Um, but I don't know, do you have a nostalgia for that sound, I guess?
Um, kind of. No, I really love the music I'm making now.
Yeah.
You know, there are like a handful of songs from that period of time back then where I do like. I've been trying to kind of um I don't know, revisit them in a way where I'd be really happy with releasing them, and then sometimes it doesn't work, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, this could be something. But I think it is mainly like just the individual songs themselves. Like in the case of that song, it was always a song that I loved. And even when I was re-recording it, the only main things I re-recorded were the guitars at the end and the drums.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the same stuff was still on the demo, which um I'll probably ruin this for the album now, but like a lot of the stuff is really out of tune. Like a lot of the old guitars, I just didn't tune it, or I didn't have like proper intonation on the guitar or anything, and
Well, you spent all that money on a Stratocaster, you can afford a tuner as well.
exactly, yeah, exactly. But I think that adds to it as well. I kind of like having the album being quite raw too. You can hear like background noise, you can hear like shuffling around. I intentionally leave in like certain small mistakes that don't ruin the song, but just make it feel a bit more organic or something. I also want to highlight uh, um, a friend of mine, Keen McCluskey, who played the drums on the album, is fantastic. Especially the end of Heaven Level 7. He's a beast on the drums. He did nearly every song in one take. I think Grey Days was done in two takes, and that was it. Just because I was being very particular about that song, but like every
doing
song.
like the whiplash thing.
I had the
you,
black
you,
t-shirt and everything. I was throwing
yeah, you were
everything.
J.K. Simmons, like, oh, not quite my tempo.
That's why he did everything in one take. Yeah. But he's an excellent, excellent drummer. So
Yeah.
I have to sing his praises here for sure.
Well, actually, when we last spoke, you were kind of talking about because like Haunted Images. One of the things you mentioned about the transition from David OFMG to Haunted Images was that it kind of offered a lot of I don't know, kind of room for growth in terms of what the project could be.
Hmm.
I hope I'm not misquoting you here, but my understanding is that you felt having kind of a solo project under your own name kind of restricted it to being a solo project where the expectation was everything that was being done on the record was being done by you, but by kind of altering it to Haunted Images, it kind of left room for expansion, for additional instrumentation, for people to kind of come and go, and for the project in general just to grow and expand. So now that the first record's out, and in that time, I mean, what is Haunted Images now?
Yeah, very much of that same vein too. Like I've been kind of thinking about doing like a collaborative album or something with like a bunch of artists that I love and just been, just like see what happens. Even if it's like a charity thing, would be great too, But it's very much like, I have a band that I play with that are excellent now and they contribute loads to it. Like we're doing a show in Drogheda for the album launch on the 25th. And we've been kind of reworking some of the old songs to fit with the new style. Like we've a new version of Note to Myself, and we have like an alternate version of Take Me Instead as well. And like that's been so huge in terms of like the direction of this project as well, So like yeah, I like the idea that this project really is an open book now. Now that I have that album out and it's there and that's, they're all the songs that I wrote and they're mine and they're a big statement. After that, it's really open to like where I can go with this. Like it's quite exciting actually.
Yeah, no, because I get from what you said there that like it is open to more kind of like now that you have kind of like a solid core, rather than just like bringing in session musicians, that it could be open to more of a collaborative thing. I mean, does that kind of like excite you in terms of like being able to go, well, what do you guys think? Like, what ideas you have, and kind of being able to expand because like you've worked solo and you've also worked in bands. So, how do you feel like the two kind of differ? I guess for you.
Yeah, like I'm always up for, I feel like, especially working in film,
Mhm.
definitely taught me how to be open to suggestion because, and especially when you're making demos for songs and it's like probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and you're listening to it, you're like, this is the best thing ever. And then you wake up in the morning and you're like, what the fuck was
I think sometimes delirium can be conducive to creativity, in my personal
that? Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll make something anyway.
Create while tired, edit while, rested.
Yes, 100%. But definitely when I have a very strong core of great musicians to rely on, and I always ask for their opinion and for them, like especially for playing live, I love having little changes, little alternate things, and just being like, well, what's your spin on it? Let's see if we can make something new from this. Like it's a whole new, like it's still the same song and it's quite close to the record, but there's always a little something to that people can add their personality to. You know what I mean? That's what I love about like, and especially with the album when I was recording with Keen, a lot of time I'd be like, "What do you think of the drums? Like, is there certain things you do differently?" And there were like, he'd offer recommendations and stuff like that, and that was all a great collaborative part, and it made a huge difference. Like, "Stay Awake," the last single I released in September before the album, originally was going to have electronic drums on it, and because we forgot to record real drums in the original session. So
Oops.
yeah. So I was like, how do I make this? I was like spending ages just editing and editing and making sure it's perfect. And then I showed it to him and he was like, nah, we're recording this now.
Uh, that's every drummer though. Every drummer can like you can never like just make a drum part and then be like, yeah, that's great. It's always
Yeah,
like, no,
no,
you have to change this, you have to change that.
yeah,
But that's what you want with collaboration.
exactly. Yeah, and thank God as well, because that really made the song. His drum performance on that is excellent. And now that I listen back, I was like, I don't know why I was gonna release that with electronic drums. It was a crazy, crazy thought.
Well, actually, just before I talk more about the making of the album, which I want to get into a little bit, but before that, I just want to touch on something you were kind of mentioning there, about like working in the wee hours, so to speak. I was wondering, do you think that the time of day that you decide to create, even subsiding things like delirium and sleep deprivation and all that, do you think like just the hours you decide to craft in any way influence the material that comes out?
Oh, for sure, definitely. Yeah, I think I mainly create at night, which is fairly common for artists. But
Yeah.
I think that's because of um the supposed isolation of it, the idea that possibly everyone's asleep. So you have a bit more freedom to think and create without judgment or something,
Yeah.
totally psychological, like subconscious even, sorry. Like it's never like, oh, everyone's asleep now, let's go and make music.
You're just like sneaking out your synthesizer like you're the Grinch or something like that. Like you're up to something
Nosferatu comes up.
mischievous. Yeah, yeah. Just a shadow on the wall, but he has a synthesizer.
That'd be class. But I think it's also like you do get inspiration in the weirdest places too,
Yeah.
Like I always get it when I'm driving, which is very inconvenient. So kind
I caused a lot of pileups, but
yeah.
I think it's worth it.
I'll just be like, I need to get like a recorder, like a tape recorder taped onto my dashboard so I can just like press record anytime,
Like your Dale Cooper or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Diane?
Yeah. Now
Who's
entering Twin
that?
Peaks. It's February 24th.
Yeah. But it's yeah, like and especially, like I was saying earlier, if you try a new technique or something, or like for Take Me Instead, that was a very experimental kind of song to do. I was messing around with I have an Antoria Les Paul. It's like quite old, 1977 or something. It was my uncle bought it,
Mhm.
and it's like a crazy guitar. It's kind of broken. Like every time I plug it in, it sounds different. So I was messing around with that, and I was getting someone was ringing me, and I put my phone next to the pickup, and I was picking up the interference from the ringing,
Yeah.
and I recorded that through an amp, and that was like the bass layer for Take Me Instead. It was like when I had that recorded, it made like a rhythm,
Yeah.
and I found the BPM of that, and then I made the song, and then I was like, well, I have lyrics that fit that perfectly, So I think I don't know if that's I should get committed for that, or if it's like a madman, but like it really
This
isn't.
man he can't be in sane society.
People listen to that song and they're getting like, "Your mom's calling you." That's I can hear
Well,
this.
at least you weren't putting the phone up to like the strings and then recording that so everyone could just hear the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah, that'd be weird.
I
Yeah,
remember that was so much fun when they discovered you could do that when you could just put like your earphones up to like the guitar strings and it would play out the amp. I had
yeah.
so much fun with that back in the day, man.
Or people screaming into the pickups as well. That's always
Yes.
fun. Like, yeah, yeah,
You actually gave me, this is tangible, but you kind of gave me a little idea there for like an alternative ending to Nosferatu, where at the end, when spoilers, I guess, for a 100-year-old film, but at the end, when the sun comes up and he melts, instead of it being because he's sucking blood, he was up all night just recording an album, just like doing bedroom demos, and then he's like, oh shit, the sun is up, and he dies. So.
yeah. No, he just listens to the song and then melts out of embarrassment. Yeah. What was that?
That's why he has to move because he's just so embarrassed by his home demo. So he's like, I need to get out of this. I need to go to Germany.
Yeah. Need to commandeer this ship.
Actually, could I ask? Actually, since the we last spoke, a new Nosferatu film came out, the Robert Eggers version. Did you see it?
Mm.
Did you like it?
I did, yeah, yeah. I watched it. I thought it was okay. I thought like I'm a fan of Werner Herzog's
Yes.
Nosferatu.
Which is
Um,
it is not scary at all, but it's
no.
so depressing in a good
Yeah.
way. It's in a good way.
Yeah, it's very like
What's the
yeah,
name of that actor again? He's like really insane.
Klaus Kinski.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. He's yeah,
He's
great
awesome.
performances, but it's yeah,
He's very like yeah, he's very existential or something in it, which I loved.
yeah,
And I just felt like with the Robert Eggers film I was expecting maybe a little bit more style or something. Like I loved the
yeah.
look of it, but like I felt like it could have been a bit more, and I felt like it was very, I don't know. There was something about it that I was like, maybe my expectations were a little too high for it or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it was good. Like,
I think when the original Nosferatu, so we're just going to talk about Nosferatu now for the
yeah,
rest of this. But the original Nosferatu, like everyone, there's those iconic images, him on the ship, obviously the shadow on the wall, and all these like very haunted images. Yeah, no pun intended.
oh,
But I actually didn't mean to do that. But I actually think one really stark, scary image that no one ever talks about, but like when I watched it, freaked me the fuck out. It's the scene where. I forget the character's name, but the wife in the film,
mm,
she's like looking out the window to the abandoned factory across the road, and you just see like Nosferatu in the window just staring at her, and it's like that is so creepy, but no one ever references that image, and
no.
it's so scary, it's so freaky, you know?
I feel like everyone just references the super speed where they speed up the
Yes.
film and it looks like like a Benny Hill, like,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because like you look at that like now and those images are so like hilarious, but at the time it was meant to like indicate the supernatural element of
mm,
Nosferatu and but like now just because like of things like Benny Hill and I guess like Charlie Chaplin and a bunch of those silent comedies, now it has a comedic flair to it. It's
yeah,
really interesting how like the film kind of gets different perception over time. One
yeah.
final thing, and like I promise I'll stop talking about Nosferatu after this. But you're talking about the Werner Herzog version. Do you prefer the German or the English version?
Oh God, that's a
Are you
tough
a
one.
purist about that? Because I've only ever seen the English version, and you can kind of tell the ADR is there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Which I
Yeah,
kind of like. I kind of
yeah. It
like
kind
that.
of adds like the Werner Herzog film. This sounds weird, but it feels like a kind of 1970s like ITV drama that just happened
Mm,
to have supernatural elements.
yeah, for sure. I like the ADR for Klaus Kinski. I like
Yes.
when he's speaking English. It's very, I don't know. There's something chilling about it. Mainly because it's like I think the whole idea of like Nosferatu and the vampire is like he's masquerading as human. So
Yeah.
the fact that it's like this weird German tinged English accent that's trying to convince you of something, I think that adds a lot to it.
Yeah.
But I think like it's the same in like anime as well when people are like you watch the dub and it's like okay,
I
why
think people
not?
give you I think people say it's okay if it's Studio Ghibli or if it's Cowboy Bebop. Those are two passes you get. You can
Yeah,
watch the
I
English
think
subs
Death
now.
Note should get the pass as well.
All
Death
right.
Note for sure.
All right. Controversial.
Controversial.
We're gonna be bombarded by weebs.
Bring them on. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I got my samurai I got my fedora and samurai sword, so I'm ready. Bring it on. Going back to the record then, so I want to talk actually a bit about the production timeline. This so um. When I'm listening to it, I mean, it has a very cohesive whole. It really does feel like a record that was very, that was done. Again, this was my interpretation, but it seems like an album that was done in a relatively short amount of time in done consecutively. Like it doesn't feel like an album that was made piecemeal and kind of collected over time. Is that accurate, or was it a more arduous process?
It was definitely like the songwriting was definitely piecemeal for sure. It was definitely like the songs are quite all over the place in terms of when they were written. Um, but again, like I was saying, like when I picked those songs, it was very much like these feel like they fit together perfectly, you know?
Yeah.
Like like all the songs have like different places to them. You know, I think If You Want is probably the no, well, actually, no, the interludes are probably the newest edition. Um, like I don't know where to begin or end anymore is probably the newest song out of it. But If You Want was written when I was living in this house I'm in now, and then like sometimes it's written in a different apartment, and Heaven Level 7 was written in a different house, and there's like there is quite a gap between them, which I think really says a lot about like it's really a snapshot of the whole theme of reflection, you know?
Yeah.
For sure, like just going back and forth, but they also kind of resonate with the same kind of message, you know? So, but then once I picked the songs, the production process, like when I was kind of redoing some of the parts of it, that was all like over the space of like 2 or 3 months or something, just like tipping away at it, getting guitars done and drums done and everything 100%, and getting everything a lot more cohesive together,
What about the personnel on the record? I mean, how many people actually kind of worked on it?
All in all, about like I'd say four, but that's just like I did everything on it apart from the drums. And when we recorded the drums, we recorded it in Abbey Lane Studios in Drogheda. So that was Keen McCluskey was playing the drums, and then I was assisted by Fran McDermott and Eric Sharp, who owned the studio. So they were kind of engineers. Um, so that would be kind of like all the personnel, really.
Yeah.
And, the logo on the front, the three swords, is done by a friend of mine, Chloe Hart. She did a lot of artwork for me in the past and stuff. And that logo's class. I love it. So I was plastering that everywhere I could,
Well, you can be as vague or as detailed on this question as you want, but do the three swords have a significance to you? Like, did they have a symbolic meaning, or did you just look cool?
Uh, I think so they were used in a different artwork for early in the afternoon. It was like there was four different illustrations on it, and that was the one that was just the most striking to me. Like I was originally going to, because I wanted like a logo or a symbol that signified this whole thing. And I was originally looking at like crosses and religious imagery and you know the French cross and things like that, And then when I look back on that artwork, I was like, well, there's like three crosses there in that sword, Like that's like very much in the vein of like where this direction is going. So it was definitely like aesthetics. There's no real meaning behind it, but there was something like a gut reaction to it when I saw it. So I think it was mainly based off that and aesthetics. You know what I mean?
You got to be careful when you're messing with crosses because I know the Celtic cross has unfortunately been appropriated by white supremacists, so you don't want that connotation. You don't want to be like, oh, this is like a new Screwdriver record or something, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go anywhere near the cross.
Oh no.
But a rebrand.
It's like going into like a tattoo shop and be like, yeah, could I just get that one on the wall, not knowing the connotation of it? It's like
Yeah, exactly.
But well, again, when we last spoke, I mean, you were talking about with the expansion of the project beyond just like forming a band, like how it could kind of become somewhat of a multimedia project. I mean, you've talked about like shooting like short films for the project, something that you could perhaps project for a live show, even things like costumes and all these. So, have those ideas eventuated into anything, or are they kind of something that no longer resonate with you, or how do you feel about kind of like that kind of like extra kind of stuff for the project?
I think it is a huge part of what I'd love to do in the future, especially the projector thing. Um, like it's about doing it right though as well. Like it's great to have the idea of it, but then if the execution isn't right, it's not giving it justice.
Yeah,
But I definitely want to like I wanted to release. like a series of videos for all the songs after the album comes out. So it's like just an extra bit of meaning to add towards everything. But I was also thinking of like doing like comic books as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
have skills in that, or would that be something you'd have to kind of outsource?
Oh, yeah, I'd source that for sure. Yeah,
Because
like,
there are so many great artists, like in Ireland alone. Like, it's like all these like great artists. Like, you could totally do something really cool and innovative with that, I think. I don't
yeah,
know what publishing comics in Ireland is like. I know there's Little Deer Comics, they do publishing. That's about the extent of my knowledge, but I don't know. Like in terms of like the artists, like the avenues are definitely there, but in terms of like distribution, I wonder what that's like.
yeah. Like my friend that I mentioned earlier, Chloe, she wants to do a lot of comic book stuff, and she's a great illustrator, and she's been looking into that herself. So like, I definitely partner with her to do it. Like if she wants to, obviously I haven't asked her yet, but
Yeah. Well, hopefully she's listening to this and this will be her invitation.
but
Well, she was like really mad. She's like, I really wish you had have asked me before saying that on record. I just
yeah, we're no more friends no more now.
no, no more commissions.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it is self-published in Ireland for sure. I think there's like a few small chains. I think there's one guy I met that has like a small comic book chain. But like even the self-published stuff, if you go to all the cons and stuff, um, they're
Yeah,
very welcoming there too. So I think it's very doable. Like I'm looking into doing like projector stuff as well for like bigger shows. Like um when it comes towards like August and September, going to be doing a few more shows there, hopefully. And I want to incorporate the live visuals into it and be a part where it's like a really clean run show. You know what I mean? Um,
would you want to use like the in-house projection in the venues, or would you like to have your own dedicated team? Because projection is something that not every venue accommodates for.
yeah, no, definitely. I'd be bringing my own team for sure. Yeah, I've been working on it for a good while now, trying to see what the right setup would be without
Right.
being too invasive either. Like I have a fair idea of what I want to do for it, but I don't want to be annoying either.
Sure. Yeah, it'd be kind of like those old like pirated VHS tapes you get where just like shadows moving and stuff. So like
Yeah,
just projecting, it's just going through the crowd, and it's just like all their shadows are turning up. It's kind
yeah,
of making the crowd a bit of the show as well. So
exactly.
there is no fault. Everything is just a happy accident. Everything is intentional. Would you
well,
be like particular like no, we have to get like old school like 16 millimeter projection like we have to have the reels going, we have to hear that sound, like you wouldn't be that
yeah,
precious, you'd be like no, we can do a Panasonic projector, that's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. As long as it's bright and it looks cool, that's all that matters really. But I saw like as well. I do live sound in some venues in Drogheda, and I was doing sound for a band, Ren Marabou and the Berserkers, the
I'm not
Viking
familiar.
band.
No.
So they all dress like Vikings, and they have like horns of mead, and they have,
Are they an Irish band or are they touring?
oh, they're Irish, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
They're based in Donegal,
cool.
and it's class. Like everyone's really into it. They all cosplay, and it's like all the songs are about Vikings and stuff, and it's all.
Did they do the rolling thing in the crowd?
Yeah, well, they do it. They have a song called "Raise Your Horn," which I think is cool. But like seeing
Oh
that is
dear.
like it adds such a layer to all the music too,
Yeah.
and it really gets like the crowd. It makes the crowd feel very special too, which I think is great. Like there's so many bands that like I don't want to say ignore the audience, but like don't really invite them into the experience.
Yeah,
They'll show
there's a
up and
weird
play.
attachment.
Yes, yeah, yeah. They'll show up, play the songs, and then leave, and then they'll be like, "That's it."
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like sometimes you get shows like that where it's like, I don't know, it feels incomplete or something. I get what you're saying. It's
Mm.
just like kind of like, I don't know, listen to an album but play in real time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like sometimes that could be cool if like the artist is like mysterious and they walk up and they don't
Yes.
say anything, and there's cool lights or whatever. Like that could be cool. And then, but if it's like local bands, especially, and they're doing that, it's like we kind of have
Yeah.
notions about yourself or something, you know?
Yeah, and like the Jesus and Mary chain get away with
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just mustard as well, like, you
Yeah,
know.
just Mustard are a good example actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of
Um
or something.
I want to ask actually just two final questions and I'll let you kind of get on with your day. I want to talk a little bit about you mentioned there kind of like bringing in comics to the project, and I think that's like really interesting. I was wondering from that perspective when it comes to comics or graphic novels and visual art in general, who kind of like takes your fancy in that regard, because we've talked about your music influence before, we've talked about your filmic influences before, but yeah, just in terms of like graphic design and comics and things like that, who do you have a penchant for?
God. Mobius. I
Yeah.
love, yeah, huge. I'm a big Alejandro Jodorowsky fan, so
Mm.
of course, like they kind of go hand in hand with Linkal and all. Mobius for sure. I just love his style, and yeah, there's just something so beautiful about his work. And then I was a big fan of oh God, the name's lost on me now. But it's like these old like World War II comics I used to
Hmm.
read, and
Hopefully
they're
from the Allied side.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was very much American propaganda for sure.
Oh, okay. Sometimes they can be a little dicey, especially
It
with
can be a
their
bit,
depictions of Japanese people in particular. It's like,
yeah,
oh, Jesus.
yeah. But like 8-year-old me was like guns, whoa. But
Mom, I want one.
yeah. But I recently read like the Blade Runner comic as
Yeah,
well. That was fucking really cool, and Mouse as well was really cool. But yeah,
Art Spiegelman, yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think it's quite it's a way more transformative medium than people give it credit for. Like a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
people,
totally.
you know, they'd be like, "Oh, superhero thing. Okay, we'll see your superhero thing." I was like, "Well, have you read Mouse, the Holocaust comic?" No.
They just look at it and they go, "Oh, funny mice, they're cute."
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Little Anne or something, just like that's the only relation they have is like Garfield comics or something. They're like,
Yeah,
this Garfield's a cat and there's cats in this.
yeah. So I guess, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think like I remember like getting into the alt comic stuff as like a teenager, like Alan Moore and Daniel
Mm,
Clowes and people like that, and just being like Daniel Clowes in particular, man. I mean, I remember reading like a Velvet Glove, Cast in Iron, and just being like, "Fuck, this is exceptional," you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
So I think people should give comics their due. Their and graphic novels. Actually, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of like I like the term graphic novel, but sometimes I think it feels like they're adding a prestige to the medium
Mm.
that it's trying to elevate. That's just my personal feelings. It's like it's like, oh no, I'm not reading comics. I'm reading a graphic novel. You
Yeah.
know.
I'm looking at pictures. Come on, man.
It's called an omnibus. Yes, it has Spider-Man in it, but it's sophisticated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Spider-Man for
historical
adults.
document.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And one final thing I'll just ask, and I'll let you go on your day, is a little bit about the draw the music scene. So, um, I don't know where you're based currently, but I know you're kind of peripatetic. You're kind of all over the place,
Mm.
in a good way. Geographically, you're all over the place.
Oh,
Mentally, you're very stable. You're very centered. You're very zen. You have all of life's questions figured out and answered. But
yeah, one person said that anyway,
but in general, like when it comes to first of all, I guess like working within kind of different pockets of the Irish music scene, how do you find that in terms of like different scenes in the country? And the other thing was just a little bit about does kind of your geographic location in any way influence the art as well? It's kind of a two for one question.
yeah. Yeah, interesting. I'm currently living in Dundalk, but I'm mainly based in Drogheda for sure. Just I work there most of the time, like in the venues and stuff, and I know more people down there. But the scene down there is kind of small. It used to be great. There used to be so many bands coming up, but now it's like I don't know. It's not as I think it's on the up. I think there's more happening there, and it's a very supportive scene for sure. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, I think in terms of geography, I don't think it affects my music too much, for sure. I think, you know, as long as I have my space in wherever I am, my house or whatever, where I have my creative space and I can, let loose or whatever, it's like, the music will come. Um, but I think it is about really you get what you put into it too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're starting as a band and you're like, I want to play a bunch of gigs, and you do one show in Drada and there's like only like one other band or something, then your automatic thought process would be like, oh, this is shit. There's barely anything here. I'm not going to play in Drada. I'm not going to do anything. And it's like, well, that's why there's no other bands there, because they're probably thinking the same thing. It's like, I'll just go down to Dublin and play in Workman's Club where there's like 50 bands playing,
Yeah.
But then there's 50 bands playing and you're, you're just a drop in the pond there,
Hmm.
And especially in the studio that I work in, Abbey Lane. I mentioned Fran McDermott before. He is a huge advocate for trying to create some sort of scene in Drogheda. Bands helping each other out. No matter what. Like, we all rehearse in the same space. We all record in the same space. Like, like where I recorded the drums there. Like, Key McCluskey's in another band, Modern Love, and he was helping me out with the drum recording, and then we help other bands that rehearse there, and so on and so forth. And that's how the scene is created. You're
Yeah.
helping each other out, and then it's like, oh well, we'll play a show together. Let's do this show, and then it's like, oh, I know this band, and then they come in, and then they bring their friends, and they're like, oh, they're also in a band. They're like, or they're artists. It's like, oh, I make zines and stuff, or I put on these markets and stuff, and yeah, play. It will bring music down, and then make this and that, and then it just spirals on. I think that's so. Whenever people kind of make the argument, it was like, oh, there's no scene in Drogheda, or there's no scene in Dundalk, or there's no scene, blah 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 blah. Everything's in Dublin. It's like, well, the reason it's all in Dublin is because people do things.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think there's like so many interesting pockets that are like across the country that are like popping up everywhere. Like everywhere has like a venue within, I'd say, a 10-kilometer radius at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere people can play, somewhere people can set up. I do think like, I'm sure there's like, if you actually looked at it, there's probably like demographic things where it's like, well, there's just not enough kind of like people of a similar age living in this area
Uh-huh.
that provides, and there's probably pragmatic things there too that are kind of preventing scenes. But I think a lot of places are popping up, and what's really interesting is that for a country as small as Ireland, it seems people are really like touring the country as if it were a big country like Germany or Canada or something, where
Yeah.
it's like, it's like we're doing a nationwide tour of Ireland. It's like a 10-day tour, which I think is great. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
Belfast, Cork, Dublin, the bigger cities, let's say. In Drogheda, I mean, what kind of like venue options do you think there are in terms of like, in terms of scale? I mean, like, is it all kind of like smaller local stuff, or is there kind of like the bigger venues for like touring artists too?
Yeah, there's definitely not as many venues as there used to be. There used to be quite a few, and they were all fairly decent. But now there's only really like two main ones, maybe three. So the big venue would be the Crescent Concert Hall.
Yeah,
But it mainly gets like stand up, because a lot of bigger artists wouldn't really come to Drogheda. And then there's like a smaller venue within that venue called the Purple Room. But no, it's not really fully set up yet. Like, a lot of artists wouldn't really use it, and it's also the money of hiring it as well. So, like with the other venue in Drogheda is McHugh's, and they have a
yeah,
DIY venue, which is great, because it's, you'll just, it's free. You could just show up, but you have to do like all the organization yourself. But that's also how a scene is made too. Like, you have to put on the shows and do the logistics behind it all. Learn how to operate a sound desk, and get a door person, and get the photos done, and learn how to set up lights. And so, like, McHugh's is definitely, like, I think, the main venue in Drogheda at the moment, because they have a big main room as well, where they have like tribute bands and bigger artists into. It's about like 250, maybe 250, 300 cap, and then
That's a good sized venue, though. To be fair.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's you can you can have a great time in there. Get a good band in, and then the upstairs DIY is where like the real subculture starts to hit.
yeah,
Or it could be like a random Tuesday night, and they're like, "Oh, let's just go up to the
yeah.
Watchtower." Yeah,
Well, is it actually like? 'Cause I think that's an important thing too. Like when for venues that like to be kind of like hangout spots too.
uh,
Somewhere that you can kind of go and chill. Where it's like even if there's not a band playing, it's like is there options there? Like are they open when there's not even acts open? Because I think that is like an important thing too to make it kind of an attractive cultural hub is to kind of offer things outside that. I don't know about McHugh's, but is that like is that the case there? Or?
similar enough. Yeah, yeah. There is like a bit of that where it's like this is just a nice spot where artists can hang out. And same with a few other places, but I think there definitely needs to be more for sure.
Yeah.
Um, like even when I'm over, like if I'm over in Europe, like Germany, like or even Slovenia, they have squats.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like they're that's like such a great subculture for art for sure. And
Yeah, that was something we never had here, like that squat
yeah,
culture. Because if I'm getting the history correct, I think like what happened was during the 60s and 70s, like pretty much all the mainland European countries had these like cultural centers. Kind of they put money into it for kids to hang out. And I think by like the late 70s, early 80s, like a bunch of those places just got abandoned and just got taken over by a bunch of punkers who started putting on shows. And it just an organic scene kind of grew from that. Where like like pretty much every German city, Danish city, Italy, Switzerland, like all these places just had these like DIY venues just
mm,
kind of like pop up, and it was literally doing kind of as you were saying, where it's just like just kids putting on shows, kind of,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think it's the fact they just went on their own volition. Like the one in Slovenia I went to was called Materko, and it was after the disbandment of Yugoslavia.
Mhm.
So it was like all these old army barracks, and it was an old army prison and stuff, and they just converted it into like a hostel and like a bunch of venues, and it's like
Yeah.
that's cool as fuck. We could get that in Ireland, obviously, but like,
Yeah, we convert Comanium jail into a venue or something. Like, no, no, you want to go to cell block C, that's where the band is on.
yeah. I mean, I'd go. That's all I'm
I
saying.
totally would go to that. I love like when people do like interesting venues and shit like that where it's like
Mm,
we're putting on a show and it's at like an abandoned power plant. Okay, cool.
yeah.
Like that's cool.
Oh yeah. That's like House of Hibernia. They do that and
Mm.
stuff, don't they? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Underneath a motorway or something like.
I love that shit, man. I love just like finding like weird, innovative little places to put on gigs and stuff. I don't know the
That's great.
pragmatism of it. I don't know like if
Mm,
the acoustics and all that, how good it would sound. But it's like
yeah.
I just like the novelty of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't organize one, yeah, but I'd go to one.
Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like warehouse raves or something like that, where it's like, let's
Yeah.
just get it right when like that was semi illegal to do, I guess. Or I'll say it was in a legal grey spot.
Yeah.
The grey market, I think, is what it's referred to. When it was just like a bunch of music fans just putting on shit. One really final thing, I promise this will be the last thing I'll ask. You were kind of talking about like the kind of organic nature of like scenes popping up across the country. One thing I was thinking about, like there's so like as I was saying, there's so many great scenes and so many organic bands coming out of that. But I think the aspirations in a lot of ways is for people. I don't know if you think this is true. I'd like to get your perspective, but the a lot of the bands that kind of get some notoriety and kind of have some credit, let's say, eventually get absorbed by the big boys in Dublin, like the MCDs and stuff like that, and start putting on
Hmm.
what could be local shows. They start booking in the same venues and things like that. And I wondered, is all this just coming to a kind of natural equilibrium of trying to be within that mainstream Irish music scene? And if that is the case, is there anything wrong with that?
Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all, but I think they definitely need to be there needs to be two entities for sure of like, you know, Tesco and the local shop.
Sure.
You know? Like you'll go to Tesco and you're like, okay, here's like the general like, fruits and veg and blah 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 blah. And then here's the local shop that has the niche shit in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, here's the local shop that has the imported Japanese Coca-Cola. You
And
know?
the energy drinks that will give you a heart attack as soon as you
Yeah,
look at them.
yeah, that you can't read or anything. Like,
Yeah, it always just sounds like it's always like burn energy or something.
yeah,
It's just like a black can with like a fire on it or something. You're like, Jesus, I'm gonna
yeah,
die.
exactly. Yeah, I think there has to be space for that, where there's like a more of a freedom, I guess. Like we're
Yeah.
working, and like working with MCD and like singular artists and Aiken and things like that, things have to be a certain way and there's a protocol and like, which is great, which is
Mhm.
important for those types of shows. But then, you do need the independent promoters and the DIY promoters to be like, fuck it, let's see what happens, let's mess around. Let's do this. Sure, it's probably
Just
dangerous.
put burn energy drink on the rider. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
We couldn't
Exactly.
afford Red Bull. I know you preference it, but how about this?
Let's put strawberry mango vapes on the rider. Why not? Yeah. They'll probably blow up in our hands, but it's okay.
Well, actually, it's interesting thing you put there because like you put like singular artists in with MCD and Aiken, and I think like from the perception, things like singular artists and Foggy Notions and promoters like that are massive promoters, but they kind of have a perception of being cool and being kind of scrappy indie guys. I
Mm.
don't know. Do you view them the same ballpark as the people putting on, say, the massive gigs at like Marley Park or wherever?
I do think singular artists is getting quite bigger, like they did the Vamps and stuff,
Yeah.
And so
Oh yeah, they're doing a bunch of stuff at Command Jail, aren't they? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think they are on quite a higher echelon, but sure, like Foggy Notions definitely it gives me like indie vibes, but like
With a
yeah, on
budget.
big budget, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
which is amazing to see.
I think that's like a really important thing, man. It's like having that kind of like those people with the budget who also have their ear to the more, let's say, alternative stuff that's
Oh,
big
for
and
sure.
popular and that will sell out, but have the budget to actually hire bigger venues, you know?
Oh yeah, no, it gives especially like smaller bands who aren't used to big venues the chance
Yeah.
to learn from it too,
Yeah, that's something that I think like the promoters like need when they're booking these like big shows. Like they should foster, like they should have their ear to the ground about what's going on, and try and make bills that are succinct and that make sense too, and that would give
Hmm.
people relative exposure. Because like I'm sure it's the same for you. I go to like lots of gigs from like smaller acts, and I think if they could open for this act, they would, it'd be a great pairing and stuff like that. And I was thinking like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. I'm not a promoter, but like in my head, I'm always thinking like, oh, if that person was billed with this person, that would be a huge gig for them and stuff like
Yeah,
that. I
for
think like
sure.
that's something that I'd love to see is like, kind of sort of what would you call it? Like I don't know, a middle person between the big acts that are touring and the people who are like involved in the scene, a conduit,
Mhm.
if you will, I guess.
For sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. A real modernization of the underground scene um with the bigger acts for sure is like and it's a big thing for the artists to learn from too. Like even if
Yeah.
even if they fail on stage, like that's something that is like will shape their career from then on. Like it's a that's like a friend of mine was telling me when he did Ireland Music Week and they played in the National Stadium
Hmm.
and it was the first like big-ish venue they played. They were like, we were not prepared for that at all
Yeah.
and felt so out of place. But that was great because it was like, oh, this is the level we have to get to.
Yeah.
This is showing like where we have to go and we have to work really hard to get there. You know?
Yeah, and I think also like when you're at like the smaller club level, you have all those opportunities to kind of eat shit live and grow as an act
Hmm.
and do more gigs and get perpetually better. But yeah, I think like those like big opportunities are so like sparse and few and far between that you can't if you were say going on a tour with a bigger act and you were playing consecutively each night, you'd get used to the bigger venues. But
Yeah.
when you don't have that opportunity and it's just like every once in a while I might get an opportunity to play the Olympia or something like that. Like maybe then it's kind of it's a bit different. I don't know. Like I don't know how
Mm.
people can actually acclimatize themselves to that um grander scale naturally.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you need that little stepping stone or that little trial run or something, you
Yeah.
know?
Do you think the kind of mid-sized venues, like say the Academy or something like that, where it's not to the extent of like Vicar Street or the Olympia or whatever, but kind of Button Factory Academy style thing is a good middle ground for people to kind of get their footing before branching out, or I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like definitely. I feel like the only venue that really does that kind of thing would be Button Factory with
Yeah.
Tilt and stuff, you know?
Yeah, Tilt is great, man. So
Mm,
good.
it's excellent. Like there definitely needs to be more like that in like the Academy or even in the Olympia as well, of like a bunch of small bands, even if it's like a little festival thing,
Yeah.
you know? Like that's I think that's huge, you know? And it gets rid of that whole almost like class hierarchy. Is like, oh, that venue is only for the
Yeah.
main artists, you know? It's like you're not a real artist.
Come to us when you have an A&R manager.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, you don't have a label. Fuck you. You're
I
not
just
playing
picture all
here.
the venue owners just having a cigar, just smoking indiscriminately. I know
Yeah,
it's like 1950s ideal, but it's just like that's
yeah,
just the guy. That's like an important guy, just a guy with a cigar going in a
yeah.
three-piece suit.
That's such
I
a
run
crack.
things around here, you see.
Yeah. Well, I gotta keep it pure, you know. Oh God. But yeah, no, it definitely needs to. Because I was thinking of the same thing for Drogheda as well, where the Crescent, like it holds like it's quite a big venue actually. I think it holds about 900 to 1,000 people,
Hmm.
you know. And if you just had like a showcase where it's like, you know, get a bunch like 10 bands or something and have it just go the whole day, like a little festival thing, you know, and just get them to bring all their friends and they'll just pack it out and it'd just be a great night, you know, and it'll really showcase like a good stepping stone as to like this is how you should be on stage and this is how everything should work, you know what I mean?
Well, I guess I'll let you go now, but the album's out now. You can stream it. Is it out on physical or is it just digital?
Yeah, it's physical. I have um Marius from Slowdown Records is making cassettes, so I think you can order them through his Bandcamp, and then I have CDs as well. So I'm doing a launch show today actually in Big Moon Records in Drogheda. So I have some CDs there too, and yeah, so physical and on Spotify. So
Perfect. And gigs surrounding it. So you mentioned there's going to be a launch gig. I think next week. I'll try and get this out to coincide with that. But I know you're playing Gaze Fest in Belfast. I don't know if you're doing the Dublin show, but do you have any other gigs coming up that people should check out if they want to see Haunted Images live?
yeah, I'm mainly Gaze Fest in August, and then the 25th of April is the album launch show. I think I'm gonna do a small show in early May in Fibbers, downstairs
Hmm.
in Fibbers, like a little
Oh,
showcase
cool.
thing. And then gonna have a few more booked for September. So I'll just have to keep an ear to the ground for that one.
Perfect. Just to clarify, are you doing the Dublin Gaze Fest or is it just a Belfast show?
Just the Belfast one. Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
I just wasn't certain about that, so I just wanted to make sure I was plugging the right things.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, man. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up, or anything we didn't cover, anything people should know?
um, no, not really. No, not that I can think of. Maybe the music video for Grey Days, and if you want, and some of the promo videos. A lot of them are made by Marisha. She goes by Zinska on Instagram. Just want to give her a shout out because she's did some amazing work for like promotion for the album too. So, but no, I think that's kind of everything covered. Yeah.
Oh, I promise I'll keep. I'm like fucking
All
Columbo.
good.
One final thing, the title of the album, by the way, it's a self-titled album, and
Mhm.
one thing I thought was interesting about that, again, you can extract. I have all the time in the world, by the way. I'm just trying to be conscious of your time, but um, with the making it a self-titled record, man, I think like obviously it's an introduction to this new project on the one hand, but also the connotation of the words haunted images. I mean, um you know, like what was the thought process, I guess, about making it a self-titled album? Because like I said, introduction to the new project, but also the connotations of haunted images.
Yeah. I think it was mainly because of like the nostalgic feel of the album and the reference of self-reflexivity is like this album is more of a statement of like this is me, you know what I mean? Like this is all the aspects of my being, and this is very much the introductory of this whole brand. But I think like those songs definitely represent that idea of like music conjuring these haunted images for sure. Like especially with the interludes and all, you know, when you listen to that music and you kind of let your mind wander, and then all these images just start popping up, you know, and all these emotions start reeling back. I think that's definitely like those songs are like the purest definition of that idea of around haunted images and music, you know. And it's definitely like I find if I'm getting into a band and I see a self-titled album, I automatically think, oh, that should be the first one I listen to then.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? This is the introduction. This is what their main statement is. So I should probably listen to that before the other ones, you know? So I think that's kind of what I wanted to denote from doing that.
Well, thanks very much for your time, David, and
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
absolutely good. And thanks, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, man. It was great talking to you again.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah.
Take care.
Talk to you soon, man. Have a good
Yeah,
day.
you too, man. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're an independent venture run by yours truly, and as I said at the beginning, liking, rating, subscribing, and sharing really helps us out a lot. If you're feeling extra generous, we do have a PayPal donation link in the episode description, but don't feel obligated, of course. We've also begun releasing occasional exclusive episodes on Spotify, so subscribe there if you'd be interested in hearing those. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.